the contrast between a shopping addict and a drug addict, and seeing how those two worlds clash against each other. I can definitely see this turning into rivals to ally story very fast. This definitely has the feeling that it's going to be a series, and I'm very curious to see how it unfolds. I would definitely love to see more, especially because this pilot definitely sets up our, I guess, both our ordinary world and inciting incident, and it sets up all the pieces that we would have moving forward. Uh, Both of these characters trying to get over their addictions, uh, and we know a little bit about both of these characters, and I imagine we would explore a lot more of their inner workings as the series goes on.
Addiction, shopping addiction, spending addiction, and putting that in the framework of other addictions. I think having those scenes where, you're in like a support group and you're all comparing, and it puts everything into perspective where it's like, no, this problem's still really real, but what is it in comparison to everyone else? And I think it's interesting, like, what is the cost of money in comparison to everything else? I think it was an interesting, thought to be brought up. But overall, I think this was a really fun, or not so much fun, but like an interesting story. Um, it was, yeah, a really interesting story, a really interesting plot. There's some moments where it's a little bit uncomfortable, but I think that's the point, with the acting.
That it's about the cost of materialism and its effect on your life. And it's interesting to see. This isn't an addiction as talked about as much as others. This buying and wanting and money addiction, shopping addiction. It's interesting to see. It's played well for humor. She goes to this Narcotics Anonymous meeting to deal with it, and people are comparing addictions and things. And then she's left with a bit of quandary at the end. I wondered. I'm curious to see where it would go from here.
I appreciated a lot how the movie deals with a subject that is very heavy, but it does it in a very light-hearted way. And at the same time, though, it never underplays it. I think the actors did a really good job. The main character, the main actress, did a great job in her performance. But I think what makes the movie successful is also the ability of the secondary characters to do really well. The people in the session, in the group therapy session, um, were very good at portraying different aspects um, of addiction, and not only different aspects, but in certain cases, uh, certain, they express a certain type of discrimination towards her, as if their addictions are a bit more worthy of time, while hers is as a, let's say, a rich girl kind of addiction, which was an interesting dynamic.
I like how that the topic is taken seriously, as far as other addictions are, because sometimes sort of shopaholic can be taken lightly and not be treated as something, as an issue as it is presented. So I like that they took that very seriously, and that's very evident in this short. Even though it has sort of comedic elements, it does well to highlight the issues of mismanaging funds, getting into debt, and teaches on the importance of financial responsibility.
It kind of just goes to show, like, to a certain extent, anything can be an addiction, but what I really took away from it is not invalidating or making one person's struggle or addiction feel less important than anybody else's. And it was fun and it was like lighthearted and there's obviously some comedy involved, but at the end of the day, you know, even when she goes to this meeting seemingly to try and get help, like the the temptation is still there, the struggle is still there, and I really liked that she decided to go to a meeting. I thought that was really interesting. I thought the meeting was kind of hilarious. And, a little off the wall, you have all these different characters that you can introduce that way, especially at like an anonymous meeting. You can really have it just like you're gonna have a really good chance to introduce, some fun off the wall characters.
Story is there. The story is quite good. It's relatable. A group that's for a variety of type of addicts is definitely different, but it's what would make this stand apart. It's one of those where that's really where the story is with this group of different types of addicts, because that's where you see so many different personalities, whereas Serena and her friends are just very, very shallow. That's where you come in and see where character growth can really happen is in this addict group. And you can see that's where the potential is. So this is a great start for a pilot if it continues, and to show different types of addictions that do exist in one group. It's one where there's definitely ice to break. That's where a lot of the humor was in this addict group, because you could see everybody judging each other.